21 lessons I learned making new friends in 2024. Let's declare that 2025 is going to be a great year for making friends and keeping them. Create a group with people that you meet so you can keep them all together, especially if you jive with them really well. So this could be in WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger, but just create a group so they're all together. So that way, if you ever see a new restaurant you want to go to, or there's something that you want to try, it's as simple as putting it out there in a group and seeing who bites, seeing who's interested. And a good thing about creating groups, because I found that I don't see a lot of people do this, it promotes you seeing them over and over again. It promotes you communicating with them, even if you're not talking to them every day. Have you ever met someone once and then you never talk to them again, and then it gets all awkward trying to figure out, okay, how do I invite them to something? Putting them in a group, it just releases that pressure of feeling like, oh, I'm only contacting them to invite them somewhere. Because when they're in a group setting, they know anything goes, and then it will encourage also other people to post things in the group. The best way to build a friendship is meeting them more than once, hands down. Don't take things personally if you disagree. Sometimes it's just not worth it. And I've learned a lot of self-control that if I really like that friendship, I tend to keep my mouth shut. As long as it doesn't mess with my values and what I believe in, I leave it alone and you move forward. Sometimes you have to figure out what's more worth it. Is it being right or just being like, okay, so you guys can move on? Pay attention to the friends you meet who are always willing to go out to places, because those are the friends that you're going to ask over and over again to go new places. And the good thing about it is it's a win-win for both, because it also gives you a confidence boost and encourages you to ask people. You ever had that person where you've met where every time you ask them to go places, they'll always be like, no, or they can't go, and then it gets discouraging. But with people who are yes people, I call them yes people, you want to keep them very close to you, because those are going to be the people that will be easy to build relationship with, because they're always willing to go places with you. You want those type of people in your life. Honestly, I didn't even know that there were people like that until I started paying attention. Because the thing is, if you stay within a box and you stick with the same friends over and over, you'll begin to think that's all there is. But once you start expanding, you're gonna see that there's different types of people who are very interested, and every time you invite them, they're always down. So look out for those people. If there's somewhere that you want to go, don't be afraid of rejection. If someone comes to mind, ask them. And the worst that they can say is no. And you're not going to die. You'll be okay. You'll be surprised. Sometimes they'll say yes. You want friends who mirror what you're looking for. So I'm a person that likes going outside. I'm extroverted. I could be extroverted and introverted. I like a friend who's willing to try new things. So be on the lookout for people who seem to have similar goals in terms of friendship and the type of friendship that you're looking for. You want them to be very close to you. You want to keep those type of people close. Those are the best type of friendships when they mirror your views, and I'm not saying all of them, but they have the same goals. It just makes everything easier because they're wanting to do the same things that you're wanting to do. We're not wasting energy here. Check up on your friends. Even if it's been months or weeks or maybe even years, it's all good. No judgment. Just say hi. If they come to mind, say hi. You'll be surprised. People appreciate when you reach out to them, because we live in a world where people are so caught up within their own lives that they forget to reach out to other people. So when you are a person to reach out to someone, people appreciate it because it means that you're thinking about them. Don't be embarrassed for reaching out. It's a good thing, because we have to remember that everyone goes through life. Sometimes people can get caught up with their own life. And this is going to be one of the biggest points that really impacted me for 2024 when it came to friendships, was don't make assumptions about your friendship status. I'm guilty of this. I used to always think that if I automatically didn't hear from the person, that we either weren't friends or they didn't like me, and then come to find out when we would catch up and meet up, then I would just find out that they're going through life, or they're figuring out things, or whatever it may be. Life is happening to them. And then there'll always be this satisfaction where I'll be like, man, I'm so glad I didn't make any assumptions and I didn't allow those insecurities and self-sabotage to mess up my friendship. Because trust me, I was one to make assumptions and be like, okay, let me cut off the person because they're not interested. Obviously not. Don't get offended if you don't hear from them. Friendships, what I've learned, and this is something I learned, I'm speaking to myself, is they're not always going to be 50-50. It's not always going to be equal. There's going to be some seasons where maybe it's more of you reaching out or they're reaching out to you more. So you have to keep that in mind, that every season is going to be different because people go through different things. So don't be offended if this happens. What I've learned is it's never really about you. It's always something about them. It has nothing to do with you. But, and this is for the next point, if you feel like that friend is generally not putting effort, it's okay to cut them off and you don't have to feel guilty about it. I had to cut off some friendships in 2024 and I felt way better. It felt way better to take out the weight because sometimes you don't realize it. You're putting so much energy into the other friend, and I don't like going through that where I'm like wondering, are we okay? You're walking eggshells. If they no longer serve you in that season, it's time to let go. And sometimes us women, we have a hard time letting go, and it's okay to let go. Friendships are not meant to be forever. This is not elementary school. And we have to get that out of our head that it's okay if a friendship ends. It's completely okay. It served its purpose, and now you're walking into a new season. And there's always so many people that you could meet. There's always that other friend that is willing to meet up with you, who is checking up on you, who is just saying, hey, how's it going? There's other friends, and we shouldn't forget about the friends who are genuinely making effort, who genuinely show up and have interest in you and your friendship. Don't focus on the negative, focus on the positives. You may have friends where you just can't meet them often, and that's okay. I have to repeat that, and that's okay. It doesn't make them any less of a friend or more of a friend. There's a season for everything. Leave room for the friendship dynamic to change. You need to embrace it. It's completely okay. People are gonna go through different things in their lives and different periods of their lives. Embrace the change. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to fix it. You're gonna maybe meet some friends once a month and then some friends every week. But it's important that you embrace that dynamic and understand that every friendship is going to be unique. And don't get discouraged if you're not meeting your friends as much as you want to. I say this because this is something I learned last year, because I had a friend where I was getting a little insecure about it because we weren't meeting as often or wasn't seeing her, and she's going through different things in her life. But then once I started to embrace, maybe I'm just gonna meet her once a month. And that's what we started doing, is I literally see her maybe once or every 2 months. And it's like if we haven't missed anything. It's like we haven't missed a beat. And once I started embracing that and not putting pressure on myself, saying, oh, what's wrong with me? Or maybe she doesn't like me. And I just embrace, hey, this is the type of friendship where we're meeting once a month and we have a good time every time you do. That's completely okay. So it's important to embrace that. There's going to be different types of ways you nurture the friendship that are not always going to be the same. If you meet a new friend, pursue them. The more effort you put into thinking of them and inviting them out and building relationship with them, the more you get to be in their lives, and they will start turning around and inviting you. The more they're gonna think about you, the more they're gonna think of inviting you to their birthdays and milestones or anything that they're doing that's important in their lives. I share this because I see a lot of people complain, oh, I'm not making any friendships, or no one ever asks me or invites me out. I always have to reach out to them. And it's time that we change our mindsets and accept the fact that you have to put in the effort. If you want to satisfy your need of making new friendships for yourself, you have to do what you gotta do. So that way it develops in the friendship that you're looking for. So then it turns into a two-way street. In the beginning, you may have to put more effort than you would like to. That makes you feel uncomfortable. That's just how it is. Until you get to a point where both parties are asking each other to go places and so forth, and you're building that relationship. You have to understand is that when you meet someone new, technically you don't know each other. So you're not gonna automatically be like I mean, it's possible to be two peas in a pod, but for the majority, you're not going to be automatically two peas in a pod. So you have to make the effort and put in the effort into those friendships so you can have the type of friendship life that you're looking for. I feel like this relates so much to dating. If a guy's not being consistent and he's not contacting you as much as he should, and he's not setting up dates as often as he should, you're going to eventually lose interest because you don't know him. And so you're going to move on with your life, and probably he'll move on eventually. You have to be constantly keeping in contact to see things blossom, especially if you guys gel. Be very intentional. If you know that both of you guys get busy and sometimes time just passes by, before you know it, you're like, dang, I haven't met the person in a while. Be intentional and contact them and put it on the calendar and meet up with them. This is something I learned for 2024, is there's some friendships that just flow, where you're meeting, I would say, overall every week because you have some of the same interests and hobbies. And there's just some friendships where you just don't cross that type of path because you're not necessarily doing a specific hobby together or something of similar interest. There's some friendships where I have to be very intentional and be like, oh wait, I haven't saw so-and-so for a while. Let me text them and see if they want to meet up, see a movie with me, or go for dinner. It's as simple as that. And then usually they would agree to it and you find a time. But there's just some friendships you have to be intentional about it. And we have to stop getting in our feelings, feeling like, oh, well, I'm the always one just putting it out there. It can be vice versa too. But being intentional is very important, especially if you know it's a good friend. If you haven't already, pause this video and call that friend that you've been thinking about over and over again. Just call them, pick up the phone, and say, hey. They're going to probably get the shock of their lives, but just say, hey, how's it going? Or you can text them too. But the whole point is, if they've been on your mind over and over again, it's time to reach out to them. Don't take things personal, because most of the time, it has nothing to do with you. The actions that you feel that they're doing most of the time has nothing to do with you, and it has to do with the distractions that's happening in their lives. So that's something that I learned. Don't take it personal. Don't let your insecurities get in the way of your friendship. This is something I struggled with for many years, and I had to get out my head, and I had to tell myself every time I felt like, oh, this friendship is not going the way I'm thinking it should go. I learned to get out my head and realize it's not about me. If you let your insecurities get in the way, you can mess up and break up a lot of friendships because of those insecurities. This is why I always promote that people should be making a new friends and not staying with one little circle, because that way, if that friend is in a different season than what you would like, if you get what I mean, then you have other friends to do things with, and you're not just depending on that one friend. And no one should be putting the pressure on that one friend. If you have one friend and they're not meeting your expectations and it's getting you down, that's a you problem. That's your problem. You're choosing to just depend on those 1-2 friends. You should be getting out there and making other friends. So that way, when they're going through life, because everyone deserves to go through life, you're not putting that pressure on them, so that way you don't feel lonely, or so that way you have a friend to go out with. Go and make other friends. There's other people out there who are wanting to make new friends. Don't wait for someone to reach out to plan things. Please don't do that. If you want to go somewhere and you want to make sure that you are booked up for weekends or your day off, you be the planner and make it happen and get people together. Do not wait for someone to reach out to you, because else you're gonna always have weekends or days where you're by yourself. You need to take the initiative. You may have to be the planner in the beginning. Notice I said in the beginning, because it's not going to be forever. Eventually someone will reciprocate once you meet the right type of friends. But it's important that you are creating your own party. If someone invites you somewhere, say yes, as long as you have the budget, of course. But for the most part, say yes. And this goes for even if you're tired and you're like, oh, I'm tired of work. Because the reality is, work is always going to be there. You're always going to have distractions. You're always going to have to pay bills. And it comes to a point where you're in a place where you need to make friends and build relationship. My biggest go-to is say yes, especially if someone's taking the time to invite you out, say yes. Because the problem I've seen is that people start to say no, and then they're ones to complain and say, oh, well, my friend doesn't ask me out anymore. Yeah, because you keep on rejecting her. And so why would she keep on asking you the third or fourth time if all you're gonna do is say no? The more you say yes, the more you're going to get invited out. Saying yes puts yourself out there to meet new people and build relationship. So saying you're tired, it's not an excuse. Being tired and saying no is just going to keep you lonely and not having new friends. Sometimes you have to get past that and do the darn thing. I can't tell you how many times I've been tired and still went out and then had a blast. And I wasn't tired once I was out doing whatever I was doing with friends. If there's an issue, squash that thing right away and talk about it. And if your friend can't talk it out, then they probably shouldn't be friends with you, because you should be able to go to them in any type of issues that you have. Invite people to things that is most dearest to you. Oh, and invite some of your friends to church. So this is something I've been working on this year, and to just be more bolder. And I actually started inviting friends to church, and some of them actually said yes. So my church has some events and they said yes. And I was shocked when they said yes. And what I learned from that is that people who are fond of you are going to be very interested in being in your world and checking out what you're interested in. Now, I'm not saying that you need to be forcing yourself on them, but it's nothing wrong with asking them to come to things that you're interested in, that's dear to your heart. Don't be afraid to be bold and just invite them. And I remember I had one friend where I invited, and she told me, why don't you tell other people about your church? It's so good. And I was like, yeah. But it's just getting past that nervousness and inviting people to something that's dear to me. So that's something I've been working on. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask people to something that's very close to you. I did miss out on some points of my life where last year where I didn't invite them, and I wish I did, especially because it was like milestones. Don't be afraid to invite people to your milestones, especially that's dear to you, because they want to celebrate with you. Tell me in the comments some of the lessons that you learned when it comes to friendships in 2000. I'm curious to hear it.